I am eerily confident that both franchises actually have a really good night. I don't know. Should that be disconcerting? Should that be galvanizing? I don't know. For whatever reason, I just think that I actually know the reason. For the first time in a long time, I think, and I don't think I'm alone with this conviction, we think that the Jets and the Giants have intelligent people making the decisions, guys who are adjusted to the modern version of the NFL. This isn't sitting through another Gettleman pick or the train wreck that Idzik was, or the clown show that the McCagnon administration was. This is different. Now, doesn't mean that the emotions will lead us into the right spot. You still have to pick the right people, and we still really don't know what's going to happen at the top of the draft, which makes this wild. I mean, absolutely wild. The tantalizing possibilities for both the New York Jets and the New York Giants. The shadow of Deebo Samuel still out there. It would not surprise me at all. And Tiki and I have said this for a while. If the Giants make a trade to trade down, their finances are a wreck, so it's not exactly the most ideal financial situation to draft two players in the top 10. As you look forward, obviously, with that fifth-year option, and hopefully you pick the right guys and you want to pick up that option. But it is time to roll. I gave you guys some sobering numbers yesterday, and just to gloss over them again, because, it's one thing to know what we've watched. You know what you've sat through the past 10 years. Hell, I even said, and, I even did this. I didn't do this with the Jets because Wilson is a rookie. You're not missing a snap. I absolutely did this with the Giants last year. I'm not afraid to say it. I mean, I just stopped watching them at the end of the year. Why would you watch the Giants the final 2 or 3 games? It's atrocious. So we all know where we've been and the plight of both of these franchises, right? But when you actually hear the numbers to illustrate, to quantify the train wreck it's been, I mean, it's even worse than we thought. In the past 10 years, again, that's encompassing 20 seasons for Jets and the Giants, 10 years, 2 teams, boom, 20. The combined record is 116 and 207. Like, that's worse than the 70s Mets. Some of those teams, not the 73 Mets, but some of those really bad teams. I mean, that's worse than Isaiah's Knicks. I mean, that is wretched. Wow, 116 and 207. What's the percentage, you ask? 35%. And how about this? Not a single playoff win. Not to mention the multitude of head coaches, 8 GMs, 7 GMs in 10 years. So, I look at this and I feel like many of you do. I've got a general direction where this thing's going for. I would be surprised. Let me see. I've got how many names written down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 names written down. I won't use the word stunned, but I'll use the word surprised. I would be surprised if at least 3 of the 4 picks, if they don't trade, the Jets and the Giants, are from this list. Neal, Okwonu, London, Gardner, Stingley, Cross, Williams, and Wilson. Those are the names that really jump out to me. I don't think either team's going for Kyle Hamilton. I wouldn't. I want to play this for you. This is terrifying to me. Watch, he's going to be the next Lawrence Taylor. So Kayvon Thibodeau has had a very interesting mock life. There was a point where we thought he was going first overall. He was generally the consensus number. Oh, yeah, Thibodeau going to go first from Oregon, right? And then, he played, and he was good, but other guys emerged, and, the tape and the evaluations, you start to probe more deeply. He's not going first. But I want to play something for you. Hoff and I were talking about this, and I read this in the paper, right? I read this online somewhere. And then I listened to it. To be fair to the young man, it sounds a little different when you hear it versus reading it, which is why you should always do your homework and get both, because context is everything. tone, what you could extrapolate from that. But he was asked, what would it be like to play in New York? And here's his answer.
What do you think it would be like to play in New York?
That's the biggest stage. That's prime time.
Okay, I'm
good
ready.
So far. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Okay, cool.
I don't want to get no hopes up. I'll be grateful to go anywhere.
That's fine.
That'd be fun.
Have you ever been there?
Oh yeah, I've been there a few times. New York is my second home.
Cool.
Why is that?
Because it's L.A., but it was first. You get what I'm saying? Like it's L.A., but it was first. So it's a different feng shui. It's a different vibe, and it's the people.
It's where it gets odd.
Like the ambition, the want to, the drive.
Not there.
Tiki Swagger is a perfect fit for the Big Apple.
This.
Come on. I think my business savvy is a perfect fit. I think my gregariousness is a perfect fit. I think my hunger for knowledge is a perfect fit.
Okay. All right. Business savvy is not what I want any draft prospect illuminating the day before the draft. My business savvy, my gregariousness. How about my motor, my passion to be great, my no-nonsense attitude? And again, the first part of the young man's answer was great. The stage in New York, yeah, I've been there. It's awesome. My business savvy? And keep in mind, you may have missed the story. This is also coming from a young man who, before he's played an NFL snap, has already talked about a television career. I want no part of Thibodeau. Zero. None. Don't want him. Watch, it's going to be LT and Gastineau combined. And I'm on the record saying quite boldly, I don't want him. But, you got to take a position. You got to take a stance. And here's the other thing, too. Come on. Most of us, we don't know number one, we don't know what's going to happen tonight, just based on the variables, trades, smoke screens, whatever, the subjective nature of evaluating players. But we really don't know what these guys are going to be like in a couple of years. We can pretend we do, which we don't. Tiki's called some of these players in college, so it's a little different, obviously, from him. Listen, I watch college football. I don't get into the weeds on these scouting reports. Who the hell knows? When I look at the draft, again, that's why, as I started the show, I talked about how I'm eerily confident that both teams have a really good night. I base my draft evaluations, right, on the people making the decision, all right, or in decisions, plural, obviously, for the top 10 picks going to the locals, which is fun. And then from there, I go, okay, what do the teams really, really need? And to me, that is very easy to identify. Giants, you got to take an old lineman. Maybe you mess around, take a corner with that second pick. Maybe you go, if an edge rusher drops, you're going to be in the market for that. And from the Jets' point of view, if you don't trade for Samuel, you're taking a wide receiver at 10, and you're taking either Sauce Gardner or the top available defensive player at 4. Everything else is up for interpretation. I can bore you. Listen, I'm not a scout. I'm not a coach. I'm not locked in some clandestine film room, splicing together, 97 snaps from player X in the Big Ten. Who the hell knows? But what I do know is this I know. If the Jets and the Giants have a good night, those ghastly, paltry numbers I hit you with to start the show, the 35% combined winning percentage over the last decade, the apathy that has crept into the lives of Giants fans the last couple of years, not even watching some of these games. And don't tell me that that's not true, because half of my buddies are Giants fans, and they weren't watching, What I do know, though, with a good night, we can really start to distance that murky, ugly past and get back to having some fun freaking football again. So let's do it. All right. We're inside the Town Fair Tire studio. As always, Town Fair Tire reminds you that at Town Fair, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. You might have said, well, where is Tiki? Tiki is in the Bahamas. And Tiki is getting ready to play in Derek Jeter's charity golf outing. Oh, yeah. No, I would have loved an invite, sure. I am the Yankee fan of the show. That would have been nice. Didn't get it. But Tiki's out there. And hopefully he's going to have a good time. And hopefully he's going to get set up and he's going to dial in and have be able to do most of the show from his hotel room before he gets out. All right, let's hear from you, 877-337-6666. Let's get Eric first up, Rivervale, New Jersey, on the Fan on draft day. What's up, Eric?
BT, how are you, buddy?
I'm
Happy
good,
draft
man.
day.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited for tonight, obviously, with the Jets. I think there's a lot of things that are all possible. Obviously, we could speculate till the cows come home on what they're going to do. But I guess, when we talked the other day, one or kind of 2 points that I wanted to get to that I think are massive questions. One is obviously Becton. We all know 77 is everything it seems like is that he's working hard, he's lean, the effort's there. So if that's the case, that's great. So the other question is Denzel Mims. Because you're also hearing a lot of speculation that he's been working hard, he's back in shape, and they're expecting that he may have a decent season. So if those two things are true, does that change, what Joe Douglas is going to do? Because here's my concern, is that a guy like Aquanu drops. We know, Douglas loves the tackles, he loves the O-line, and then we miss on somebody like Sauce Gardner, which would be a massive disappointment. And then he potentially goes across town to the Giants, and we got to watch him become, the second coming of Darrelle Revis.
Yep. Yeah, I do. It's funny. I do think that Gardner's going to be on either the Jets or the Giants, unless the Lions, and they just took a cornerback a couple of years ago, number 3 overall. So I think they might be a little gun-shy to do that, the kid from Ohio State. But I think that he's going to wind up on either the Jets or the Giants. Listen, these are questions, and they're good ones, Eric. I got you, man. I don't know the answer. I don't know exactly what the Jets in their hearts, their most passionate convictions and beliefs and projections, maybe more specifically about Becton. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they believe in the young man. I don't know if they've already checked out. I don't know if they're somewhere in between. I don't know. Myself, I'm probably somewhere in between because his film was so good from year one. And year 2 was so mystifyingly frustrating in terms of his inability to recover and then, put weight on. The timeline was odd. When you tell us that there's a player, any player, has a chance to get back in, 4, 5, 6 weeks and, it's punted and he doesn't play a snap the rest of the year. Whoa. Something went awry. Either there was a misdiagnosis. That was not the case. He's a slow healer. Obviously the case. Didn't take his rehab seriously. I would never say that. But I don't know. Did he attack it with great vigor? I don't know. I don't know. So if the Jets think that Becton's legit and really ready to rock in year 3, changes everything about tonight. I agree. That's a really, really big variable. Let's get Richie out in Queens on the Fan, Tiki and Tierney. Richie.
Hey, BT, how are you?
What's happening, Richie? How are you today?
I'm good, man. Exciting time.
Yeah, it is.
It goes down to basics, too. The offensive line has been, to a point, so boring with the Giants the last 10 years. So whether it's Cross, I'd like to see Neal. But I think Thomas is a stud. I think he's proven that if he's healthy at left tackle, he's a solid guy.
A very good player. I got to tell you, Rich, by the way, I like Mehdi, I was off on him. I was really critical of him, and he earned it. I mean, he did not play well out of the chute. He has developed into a really good player.
And what was funny about him? The Giants had him rated. He wasn't rated that high. He was like the number 4th offensive lineman.
Yep.
The Giants saw something and said, no, we're going to take him. Got some grief for the first 6 months, but I think he's turned around to be really good.
I agree.
I think Gardner is going to be a stud. I think Gardner, I like Stingley. He's had some injuries. I think Gardner is a Revis type, but the wide receivers come down to, with the Jets, I think Mims is going to be a factor this year, BT. I really do. And at 6'3", he's the guy, they're looking for the red zone guy and a big receiver, which they don't have. So you're right. I mean, if he and Becton are in the play, do they risk saying, you know what, we're going to stick with what we got? But the Giants also with an edge rusher. I think they're going to probably wind up with Cross, the Giants. I think Neal's going to be gone. I think Equinola is going to be gone. Your take on Thibodeau, a young kid saying what he does, I've seen him play. If they did get him, I would not be disappointed with that. Obviously, I think he was going to be a number one pick, and maybe he worked his way and talked himself down a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be a really good draft, and it's not like worried about quarterbacks. It's worrying about to build the foundation of your team at this point. And like I said earlier with you, this is the year for Barkley and Jones. No more excuses. Get the offensive line, maybe get a big-time receiver, and then, let's see what they got. If they don't, you got to move on.
Oh, there's no doubt, Rich. You know that yeah, it's time. I mean, rubber's got to hit the road for both. Thanks for the call there, Rich. Appreciate you, man. I mean, Daniel Jones a little different just because he's a quarterback and the money that goes into it. And at his apex, I mean, while he was pretty good as a rookie, and I think Daniel Jones has some talent, he didn't put on film what Saquon put on as a rookie when he was absolutely sublime. But the value of a running back with big money, Tiki and I talk about that all the time. It is what it is. So there's a lot to navigate. And that's why I thought it was so important. And let's face it, we weren't really sure that Mara was going to do this, that he was going to go outside the organization. When you continuously stay inside the organization, like think about what the Knicks did for years. Steve Mills. And I like Steve. I got to know Steve a little bit. I used to see him every game at the Garden. Gentleman, smart guy, good man. Wasn't particularly good at his job. Let's call it for what it is. And he was given way too much freedom because there was a level of comfort. Well, he's already here and, he's a good lieutenant to ownership and all that stuff. That doesn't get you out of the doldrums. I mean, the Giants needed and need to radically, not just tweak, but radically change how they do business. I put it this way. So a couple of years in college, I did construction, and it was during the summers, and it was demo. And before you really build it up with the sweet marble and the brass and all the other stuff that costs money, you got to just take the sledgehammer and just knock it down to smithereens here. And that's where the Giants are. The Giants are in the demo stage. I mean, they are in the demo stage. And it's a good place to be because with a lot of good players at the top of this draft and 2 of the top 7 picks, it's really almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it's really hard to mess this up. It really is. And then again with the Jets, I talked about Debo. Think about this. I'd love to see this go down today. If it's going to go down, there's a chance we're sitting there with the 9th pick and the Niners and the Jets don't execute a trade, if it's going to happen at all, until right before the 10th pick, because the Niners are evaluating who's left on the board and whether or not they're incentivized to trade because a player they must have, they could get at 10. I mean, this is going to be a wild, awesome, fun, and hopefully as we look back 10, 15, 20 years down the road, historic night for both the Jets and the Giants. 877-337-6666.